All right, welcome back to your sort of TED set of notes on the concept of scarcity lectures. All right, I will now move on to the slide that says that scarcity arises because of two factors. Right, this is basically re-emphasizing what we said above. Scarcity arises because of two factors. First, there are unlimited human wants and needs. Second, there are limited resources available to meet them. Put simply, scarcity exists because we don't know have enough sufficient resources to produce everything we want. So to produce things like houses, buildings, skyscrapers, concrete, metals, all these things we have to harvest them from our environment. Basically, scarcity will exist because we don't have sufficient resources to produce everything we want. The diagram that I've given there shows limited resources and limited ones, and then scarcity is right in the middle. Scarcity is a gap between availability of limited resources and the theoretical needs of people for such resources. All right. Now you look at the slide on consumers. As consumers, because there is scarcity, there is always the question of how resources are allocated and the effects of allocation on various economic agents. Because of scarcity, you know that how do we allocate resources and what are the effects these allocations are going to have. Secondly, each decision allocating resources to one use or economic agent is also by necessity a decision not to allocate resources to another alternative use. So if you give one sort of resources, if you allocate it to one particular area, you would know that you do that at the disadvantage of the other. All right, let's look at a classical example, the Connect PNG program. Many people have different opinions on the government's Connect PNG program, but you must always note that the economy is basically involving the issues of scarcity because Papua New Guinea, money is scarce in Papua New Guinea. As a result, the government has to be very careful, excuse me, very careful on how it allocates its resources. So when the government is paying millions and millions and billions of dollars into the Connect PNG program, it's cutting back on other funding such as health, education, infrastructure, law and order. This is a basic fact. Because of the fact that you see that point there, a decision not to allocate resources to an alternative use, decision to allocate resources to one use economic agent is also by necessity a decision not to allocate resources to an alternative use. So if the government is pumping millions into the Connect PNG program, you would see that other sectors in the economy, in the micro level, will be affected because all these sort of key government expenditure priority areas, they basically draw from the same resources in the resource pool that the government has. And when you take millions out of the chunk that is there, you take a huge portion, you fund programs like Connect PNG, you would know that you live or you not decide to fund allocate resources to an alternative use. This is basically the most simplest sort of concept that comes about. Because of scarcity of resources, if the government allocates something to a particular purpose, it fails to allocate that same sort of resources or same sort of to a different sort of process or different sort of concept. And this is very, very interesting because of the fact that we all know that resources are scarce and the government is just to allocate resources to one sort of particular area. It's failing to allocate to others as well. So that is the basic sort of economic problem that we are faced with or that we have currently right now in the country. All right, scarcity and value. Scarcity is also considered important for understanding how goods and services are valued. Gold, diamonds, certain kinds of knowledge are more valuable because they are scarce, because sellers of these goods and services can set higher prices. So that's why things like gold are very scarce to find, and the cost involved to basically extract them into a pure form to sell it is very expensive. As a result, the same for diamonds as a result, because they are scarce. The more scarce something is, the more valuable it is. All right. Also, you know the seller knows that because more people want the goods and services than there are goods and services available, they can find buyers at a higher cost. So, for instance, let's look at the classical example of a top-range law firm. For a law firm, you would see that because a lawyer knows that it's demanded, or an accountant knows that it's demanded, he doesn't waste time doing these little cases. He wants to aim for big, high-profile cases and big cases that will sort of yield him a lot of money. That is why you know that something is scarce, something of quality can fetch a higher price. All right, now let's look at the concept of consumer perspective. So we can say that scarcity governs our choices, and from the producer's perspective, scarcity governs their choices. Scarcity governs their ability to set prices. So the scarcity, it always applies to the consumer and the producer. So it's a fundamental concept that applies on both sides and that cannot be easily done away with. So you would note that some important concepts there. If you're in scarcity, in the law of scarcity or the concept of scarcity, if you allocate something to a various economic agent, a various economic project, you would know that the decision you take to do that is also a decision that you allocate resources. You do not allocate resources to another sort of problem. So not a program, economic program. So the government allocates resources to connect PNG, does not allocate resources to other actors as well. Right? Scarcity, the more scarce something is, the more valuable that particular commodity or product is. As a result, gold is very valuable and your stones don't have any value because you can find them everywhere. All right, so consumer perspective, scarcity governs consumers' choice as well, and also scarcity governs the producer's choice.